What's up, San Diego? How you doing on a hot Monday in the county? Hot weekend here. This is usually like the Labor Day weekend vibe out here in San Diego, but right now it is a toasty morning in America's finest city, just like last night. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10. Got a full show today. Haven't had one of those in a while. Had some East Coast trips with the San Diego Padres. Plus, had a couple of fill-ins I had to do for the pregame show. And that will get underway here at about 12:10 with Sam Levitt, the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. And we will be on our way with Padres baseball at about 1:10 p.m. Pacific time here in San Diego. Talking Padres trying to win the series over the San Francisco Giants after a loss last night. Padres jumped out to an early lead, came back a little bit, but unfortunately for the Pods, it just wasn't enough, and the Giants ended up getting two more runs in the ninth inning and beat the Padres 6-3. It was a good win on Friday night for the San Diego Padres. They were to pick up a game on the Dodgers, but then, a missed opportunity last night. Padres did do fine, though, in terms of the overall National League wildcard standings. They still hold that 1.5-game lead on Arizona, who has now lost 3 straight ball games. So the Padres at least have a little bit of cushion in that, but not too much because they now only sit 2 games in front of the New York Mets, who have now replaced the Braves for the final wildcard spot in the National League wildcard standings. The New York Mets are 9-1 in their last 10, and they've won 9 in a row. So the Mets are red hot right now. Padres still have to hold them off. Again, the Mets took the season series over the Padres, so would rather have the Atlanta Braves circling around there in terms of being close than the New York Mets. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk more about the Padres in just a little bit. But, yesterday and this weekend for me has been a big football weekend. Obviously, with high school football on Friday night, it's part of the Honor Bowl, and a big thanks to Mark Soto, who puts on that event, and big thanks to Cathedral Catholic for hosting that event. It's always cool, and a nice tribute to the military playing in that game. It was the first time that they had girls flag football be a part of it as well. The Grossmont Foothillers on Friday beat the Lady Dons of Cathedral in the first game of the Honor Bowl. Cathedral's boys football team went on to beat Mountain Point on Friday night. And then yesterday, I didn't get the Classical Academy girls score. Classical Academy played a flag football game yesterday afternoon, and then it was Granite Hills and Perry out of Arizona defeated Granite Hills, and then last night was Sarah Gardena and Long Beach Poly. So that was the beginning part of the weekend. But for me on Saturday, I was fortunate enough to be able to be a color analyst with Jack Cronin for USD football against Central Washington. USD got a victory over a Central Washington Division II team. That's kind of a trap game because Central Washington is one of the best teams in the country in Division II, and they have scholarships where USD does not have any scholarships. So could have been a trap game in the making. USD was able to win the game, though, a little bit late, but in the game that they were able to put together, a couple of good drives offensively. Defensively, they scored on defense again. They had a big man touchdown as Javon Reels, intercepted a screen pass and took it 30 yards to the house to really give that extra spark for USD. They were able to beat Central Washington. And then after the game, since that game was at 1 o'clock, and it was a scorcher. It was a scorcher in Linda Vista. And the setup it's rough. And it's great for the entire season. Being at USD at Torero Stadium is great for the press box setup. The only time that it's not great is for like a 2-week span, which is right now when it's hot. I mean, it is a hot box in that thing. I was sweating the whole time, but that game ended around 4 o'clock. I was able to cruise down Friars Road, get gas at Costco, and then pull into the Aztec game, which is what I really wanted to talk about here in the first segment. Talking about Aztecs fast. And I'm not going to do it in a disparaging way. I mean, obviously, that's the goal of the program. You're not going to get to that point from the get-go. But I got to the Aztec game. I got there early. I got to use my my parents' tickets. They have season tickets to support the program. My dad is a San Diego State Aztec alum, likes to support San Diego State athletics. And so I got to use his nice seats and park in the, I forget what the parking lot was called. I parked in the grass lot, which is great, by the way. It's not as hot. It was nice, cool in the shade. Walked around to a couple of tailgates. Went down to the 2 tailgates that are run by a couple of former players of mine at Cathedral that currently play for San Diego State. Their family's very nice. The Latuli family and Lucky Sutton was right. His tailgate was next door too. Got to hang out with those guys for a little bit, and then cruised over, hung out with my boy Sam. And get the whole college football atmosphere, San Diego style, Southern California style. Now, I'm a big college football fan. I was a big college football fan when I got to TCU. I was a little bit of a college football fan before I got to TCU because I grew up here in town. I mean, for me, college football games were going to Qualcomm and watching San Diego State play, UTEP or something, or some school out of the WAC or some school out of the Mountain West, and playing in a cavernous Qualcomm stadium with, some seats and some people filling out seats, but not always. And I was, going to games, post Marshall Faulk and then pre when San Diego State started turning it around a little bit with Brady Hoke and Rocky Long. So college football was kind of like something to do on a Saturday, but it was never really a big deal. And then I went to TCU, and it was like, this is really cool. This is really a big deal. Now, granted, it's Texas, but it is the Big 12, and TCU was, for a majority of my life, in the same conference with San Diego State. So it's not like it's been some crazy deal for a long period of time. They've had a lot more tradition and history over at TCU, but and it's not even like the best place to be. It's a very much a wine and cheese crowd at TCU football games. But that got my interest going a little bit more in college football as compared to the NFL. And that was kind of around the time where the Chargers were thinking about leaving, but I was always an NFL guy, not really a college guy. It was never really a big thing here in San Diego. And I know they had days with, when they had the Air Coryell days and they had the Marshall Faulk days, it was a little bit different. And it'd be nice to get back to that point here in San Diego to have, embrace the college football environment. I think San Diego State, from a tailgating and Aztec walk and the way that they have Snapdragon set up, from that perspective, I think they're doing a pretty good job of trying to make it kind of a college feel to the ball game. So I got a little bit of the college flair. It wasn't as big, obviously, as what I was used to. And I've been to some SEC schools now, too, where that environment is at a whole nother level. And I'm not saying San Diego State needs to get to that level, but it would be nice. And so I get into the stadium. It's like 7 o'clock. It's a 7:30 kick. I think I get to my seat around 7:15. And that's where I took the picture of the stadium. And almost immediately, Ben Higgins responds to me on Twitter and goes like, I hope you took that picture an hour ago. And for anybody that wants to see it, I'll see if I can pull it up real quick. It wasn't a lot of people there for a game, probably one of the bigger games for San Diego State this season, playing in Oregon State. Now, Oregon State, even though they're not really a Power 5 school anymore in terms of, conference, right? I mean, the Pac-12 is not a Power 5 school anymore. They have 2 schools that left in it, in Washington State and Oregon State. And here's a look at the picture. I mean, for all those on YouTube, I mean, it was sparse. It did fill in. It did fill in a lot more. I would not say it was like 75% full by any means. But that's what it looked like. Upper deck had like little groups of people. I think some of them were family seats. And then, I will say this. I did take a picture of the student section, And that was half the deal. Was this at least the student, and that's kind of a big problem for a lot of schools, especially schools that are off campus. I mean, it's not too far off campus. I mean, it's a quick trolley ride over. But, the student section was full. So I will give them that. At least the students were going for the beginning part of the game. So anyway, I get inside the stadium. It looks a little empty, and just it's good. I mean, I think the stadium is great itself. The atmosphere is interesting just because it's still kind of a new thing. But it doesn't give that full college football flair to it. My buddy that was joining me, Ron, he took the trolley to the game. He was running a little bit late. And so he's texting me while he's on the trolley. He was like, dude, this trolley's taking forever. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, it doesn't matter. They haven't kicked off yet. It's like it's 7:30. They haven't kicked off yet. And he was like, and I was like, it's a little sparse right now. And he responded with a text about all these people on the trolley wearing Aztec stuff. And he was like, well, that's probably because they're all on the trolley with me right now. So maybe that's what the problem is. So as he's getting off the trolley at the Snapdragon Stadium spot, the old Qualcomm Stadium trolley stop, he said the majority of the people wearing Aztec stuff didn't even get off the trolley. And more people got on the trolley at Snapdragon Stadium to go to San Diego State or to go downtown to party than got off to go watch the football game, which I'm not surprised. I mean, San Diego very much was a tailgate culture for football for so long. But that's half the battle right there. I mean, more people would rather just go to bars and watch the game than go to the game inside itself. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I couldn't at the same time. I mean, my uncle back in the day used to drive his motorhome to Qualcomm and just tailgate all day for the Chargers. He would never step foot inside the facility. So it filled in a little bit more, and then I got to actually watch Aztecs football. I got to watch it up close. First game of the year against Texas A&M Commerce. I was calling the USD game, so I was just kind of following along stat-wise. Didn't get to watch it. But from an in-person type of viewing, the first thing, and this is maybe the coach in me, but the first thing I noticed was Oregon State had to be twice the size of San Diego State. I mean, twice the size. The offense and defensive lines for Oregon State were massive compared to the Aztecs, which is a major problem in football more times than not. And so it was the first thing I noticed, and I was like, that team is going to destroy that team. Oregon State Beavers are going to destroy the San Diego State Aztecs. And I had somebody text me, you think the Aztecs are going to cover their 6.5? And I responded with, no. Not at what I just saw in terms of lining up between the two teams. And the first drive for San Diego State with Aztec fast was Aztecs quick to punt. Because it was like on the ball, nothing. On the ball, incomplete. On the ball, got stuff on the run, punt. And they burned like 40 seconds off the clock. And then Oregon State got the rock. And then it was like a hot knife through butter for the Beavers down the field, and they punched in. It was 7-0. I thought the route was about to be on. But I give San Diego State credit. Their defense played their ass off. I thought their defense played great. It was a lot of bending, but it wasn't a lot of breaking for that Aztecs defense, which is really surprising for a team that expected at the beginning part of the season to not be able to stop a lot of teams. They did great. There were some things that they have to account for. They got to get off the field on third down. Some of their pursuit to the quarterback was okay. But from a defensive standpoint, again, Oregon State's not like some world beater team. They lost most of their guys to the transfer portal at the end of the year once they found out they weren't in a conference anymore. But Oregon State's not, I mean, they're not a pushover. And you have them 21 points. And for the majority of the game, when I left, it was 14-0. And Oregon State scored at the beginning part of the fourth quarter, going for it on fourth down. in which the Aztecs not only couldn't make a tackle, but then it led to a touchdown. But 14 points with 14 minutes to go is a very achievable thing if you're San Diego State, especially with Aztecs fast. But my thing with Aztecs fast and watching it, it reminds me a lot of TCU's offense when I was there my senior year, the first year of Kenny Hill, where they did not have as many of the weapons as they had the year before when Trevon Boykin was playing quarterback and they were going to the Peach Bowl and the Alamo Bowl, and they had top receivers that were going to the NFL, and they had a great O-line, and they could move the ball at will, and they went up-tempo and fast, and they would be up 14-0 on people in like a half a second. When you run a up-tempo, no-huddle offense like Aztecs fast, and you got good players, you're going to excel, and you're going to score at will, and it's going to be a race to the finish. And you're going to look like Oregon, right? Those Oregon teams that we've seen in the past. But when you have receivers that are not better than the coverage guys that they are going against, and you don't have that dominant receiver, and you don't have that speed receiver, and you don't have a lot of weapons, for a quarterback, by the way, that's a true freshman and hasn't seen anything aside from what he has seen in Indiana, a 3-star quarterback out of Indiana. I mean, Danny O'Neal did not play a good game last night. I think he was beat up too. I mean, he went to slide on one play and came up. He kind of got stuck in the ground and came up a little awkward and just wasn't really the same on that. Made a lot of freshman mistakes, and I'm not writing the kid off saying he's never going to be good. But you have a true freshman quarterback. He's got really not a lot to work with in terms of his receiving core. I mean, they're not bad players, but they're not guys that are really getting open. And if you look while they're running the plays, I encourage you to watch just the receiving. Nobody's open. Nobody's open. So I think the pass protection is pretty decent for San Diego State. Danny O'Neal does have some time to throw. Not all the time, but some time. At least when I was watching last night, he had enough time to throw. But he had nothing to throw it to. And last week, San Diego State ran the ball really well against Texas A&M Commerce. But last night, they couldn't move the ball on the ground at all. I mean, they were getting stuffed 9 times out of 10 against Oregon State, and then that really put the pressure on Danny O'Neal. I mean, that looked like vintage San Diego State Rocky Long era where the defense plays great, the offense can't move the ball because the other team loaded the box because that's what your bread and butter was the week before, and then it's let's let the freshman quarterback beat us. I mean, overall, from a rushing perspective, San Diego State had 72 yards on the ground. Oregon State had 237 yards. So even though I said the defense was solid for the most part, 237 yards on the ground is a lot. And that it's showing the difference of the trenches of the offense and defensive lines for both Oregon State and San Diego State. 72 rushing yards to 237 rushing yards. That's not going to get it done more times than not. And if I'm Oregon State, that's exactly what I'm going to do. You got Marquez Cooper, who is one of the leading rushers in the country the last couple of years at Kent State, who played for Sean Lewis at Kent State, who came in and last week ran the ball all over the yard. We're going to stop him. Let's have Danny O'Neal try to beat us. There's a couple of times where Luis Brown got loose and you were able to try to get him the ball, overshot him. Luis Brown, before that, made a really good catch on a 35-yard. I don't know how he caught the ball. It was pass interference, and he got the catch. But then the Aztecs had the ball at the 3-yard line going in, and this is in the third quarter, and an opportunity to tie the ball game, and Danny O'Neal fumbled trying to run the ball in the end zone. I mean, that's just a lot of, I would say rookie mistakes, but young mistakes, a lot of mistakes that need to be fixed that I think will get fixed with Sean Lewis, but a lot of problems and more of a project than we expected it was going to be. It's going to be a work in progress for San Diego State. I don't think it's necessarily the scheme, but you got to let Sean Lewis get some players in that are able to run his offense. I mean, for the longest time, this has been just a rushing ground attack team for San Diego State, and their roster has been kind of built that way, where you have all these running backs, but you don't necessarily have all these receivers to go out there and make a lot of plays. I mean, a very dormant offense last night. And San Diego State, I mean, I know Oregon State is good, but they're not going to be, in the college football playoff. I mean, maybe they will, but I didn't see anything out of Oregon State where I'm like, wow, this team's really good. I mean, after the first drive, I thought it might have been a rout, but San Diego State's defense, I couldn't believe, held them scoreless in the second and third quarter. Remarkable. Work in progress for the Aztecs. We'll talk more college football at about 9 o'clock in the morning. The second hour is going to be a lot of football. We're going to dive into some Padres baseball. Manny Machado is trying to track down Padres history, in terms of tying the home run record in Padres history. He accomplished that on Friday. He's trying to beat it right now, trying to get 164 home runs in a Padres uniform. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, kind of preview the series against the Giants, take a look at the hunt for October. Got to get you some injury news throughout the NFL as we get you ready for game day today, week 1 of the NFL, starting up at the end of this show. And we'll get you set in the second hour, talk college football in the second hour, get you the injury updates, and then we'll, of course, preview all the NFL games today as we got week 1 of the National Football League, college football in full force. We got Padres baseball, a lot to talk about on the Braden Surprenant Show. I want to get your phone calls today, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Want to hear what you guys got to say about Aztecs fast, hear what you guys got to say about the Padres. I'll look at all the messages in the chat on YouTube. If you haven't followed me yet, at @B_SURP on all social media platforms, including our YouTube channel. You can also follow the show at 97.3 The Fan SD on all social media platforms as well. Braden Surprenant Show just getting underway and started on a Sunday morning on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Got a lot of news coming down in the National Football League. I'm trying to get all the details on the Tyreek Hill situation. Tyreek Hill had been arrested before the game. He was headed to the game. Dolphins Tyreek Hill detained for driving violation, but will play today. Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill was detained by police Sunday outside of Hard Rock Stadium for a driving violation, but has been released from custody, the team announced. The traffic incident happened about 1 block away from the stadium, the team said. Several teammates saw the incident and stopped to offer support, according to the team. Hill is available to play in the team's season opener against the Jacksonville Jaguars, the team said. Sources told ESPN's Jeff Darlington that Hill was stopped for speeding and then got into a verbal altercation with police and was subsequently placed in handcuffs. Hill was cited for reckless driving, sources told Darlington. Hill's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, called it a, quote, heartbreaking situation and called the incident, quote, completely unnecessary, end quote. He said he wants to make sure his client wasn't mistreated. Seeing his client handcuffed was, quote, mind-boggling, Rosenhaus said. We will investigate, Rosenhaus said. We will look out for Tyreek. He added that he was, quote, just thankful Tyreek is okay and thanked the team for helping to de-escalate the situation. Earlier Sunday, video emerged of Hill being placed in handcuffs while surrounded by multiple police officers. So that's the Tyreek Hill situation. Very interesting, to say the least. And then the other thing that just happened is Dak Prescott. Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott have agreed to a 4-year, $240 million contract extension that will make the star quarterback the highest paid player in NFL history and keep him a Cowboy for seasons to come. Record-setting deal comes an hour before Dallas' season opener Sunday in Cleveland against the Browns after the Cowboys and Prescott engaged in negotiations throughout the weekend, according to sources. Prescott had been set to play the season on the final year of a 4-year, $160 million deal that he signed in 2021. Cowboys and Prescott had been unable to find common ground since the start of this past offseason, but entered the weekend with the knowledge that they would try to work out a deal before the season kicked off. By agreeing to a deal Sunday, Cowboys prevented Prescott from potentially becoming a free agent next winter in a market that figures to include a number of teams looking for a quarterback. Thanks to a no-trade and no franchise tag clause in his previous contract, Prescott would have hit the open market as a rarity in the NFL, a no-strings-attached quarterback in the prime of his career. That's a report according to Adam Schefter on ESPN. So Dak Prescott gets a contract extension. Tyreek Hill gets detained for speeding. He will play today. He has been released, and he will play for the Dolphins coming up in just about an hour and a half as week one of the NFL will continue after starting on Thursday night with a really good game on Thursday night, as a matter of fact. So that's some latest news with the NFL. Yeah, we're going to talk about Padres, Jeff. Easy there, buddy. I mean, there is other sports going on. It's not just the Padres all the time. And we're going to talk about the Padres right now. But we had some breaking news. I do want to get to phone calls as well. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Let's get to Mitch in New Jersey. Mitch, what's going on, bud?
Great. How you doing? Beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day. It's a hot one out here, Mitch.
Oh, that's a rarity. But it's been a very strange year. It's getting hotter. That's trouble.
What do you got for me today?
Well, can't wait for NFL is here. Been enjoying the. I'm sure you've been enjoying the college ball. The Big Ten is looking good, and I think USC got the best quarterback in the Big Ten, and maybe the best team. Probably a month ago, I would have said Dylan Cease was looking like Cy Young material, but he's had some troubles of late. I just want to know what your thoughts. And I'm glad Fernando's back. And thanks for taking my call. I got the win here. My grandson's kicking up a storm.
That's great, Mitch. Yeah, I appreciate the phone call. Trojans look pretty good. They look good on last week against LSU. I mean, they were going to hammer Utah State anyway. But, you know, the biggest problem for SC was going to be their defense. And their defense looked way better. Way better. And if Lincoln Riley's got a defense, the Big Ten might want to watch out a little bit with the Trojans. And I'm not a big Trojans fan. I don't really like USC too much, but They played really well. They looked pretty good. Texas looked really good yesterday. I think Michigan is not very good. With everything they lost, this year might be a miserable year for Michigan, and then they might lose their national championship for the Connor Stallings fiasco, and we'll see what the NCAA is going to do if they could do anything. But Texas looks pretty good. We'll see how they do in the SEC and see if they can handle the SEC. And we'll talk more college football later on. But some teams had some scares yesterday. Penn State had a scare with Bowling Green. Notre Dame just flat out lost. Oklahoma had a scare with Houston. I mean, UNLV went down to Houston and destroyed the Cougs. And then Houston put up a pretty valiant effort against Oklahoma in Norman and only lost 16-12, but had some great college football games. We'll talk about that at 9 o'clock. Let's talk about the Padres. Mitch brought up the Padres with Dylan Cease. Yes, Dylan Cease is not, he's got some ups and downs. He's had some ups and downs so far this year. Yesterday, Cease was not great. He was okay. I mean, he was good enough to get you a win. 6 innings, 4 earned runs, 6 hits, 2 walks, 4 punch-outs. Give up the home run as well. Right now, you just need the starting pitch to just get you through the end of the year. Just get through the end of the season. And then ramp it up again, and then you'll be ready to go for the playoffs. I mean, right now is just getting through the end of the season if you're the San Diego Padres. We're going to talk about how everything stands in the next segment in the Hunt for October, which we've been doing each and every day on Andy and Elston. But you start looking at it, I mean, again, with the division, I mean, if the Padres could have won last night and keep it at 4, and, they got to try to keep it within 2 games before they go to L.A., to give themselves a chance at the division, but it's just going to be hard to do. After today, you have 6 series left, and you're 5 games out of the NL West, which means you basically have to win every series from here on out, and the Dodgers would have to lose every series from here on out if you wanted to overtake the Dodgers. Unless you just want them to, unless you're hoping a team like Los Angeles is going to lose like 6 games in a row, which is very unlikely that they're going to do that. Very unlikely that they're going to do that. So keep putting the pressure on. I think if you keep putting the pressure on LA, you never know what can happen. Maybe they stumble because they're thinking about it too much, and they got hey, we got to keep playing hard because the Padres are on our ass. But you just got to worry more about Arizona and New York. You got a little bit of a cushion so far the first 2 days of the weekend with the Padres beating the Giants on Friday, and then the Diamondbacks have now lost 3 in a row. So with the Diamondbacks losing 3 in a row, you've given yourself a 1.5 cushion over them, but you only have a 2-game lead on the New York Mets, and now a 3-game lead over the Atlanta Braves. And that's basically it. I mean, at this point in time, and I just mentioned what teams have to do. So if the same thing applies to Chicago and St. Louis, and I'll go deeper into this in the next segment. But Chicago and St. Louis are 6 games out of a wild card spot behind the New York Mets with 6 series to go. So in order to catch them, Chicago and St. Louis have to win every series from here on out, and the Mets would have to lose every series from here on out, and that's not even factoring in the Atlanta Braves, who are already in front of them. So with less than 20 games to go, you got 4 teams for 3 spots in the National League wild card. And that's it. So the Padres just have to outdo currently the Atlanta Braves. Because at the very least, the Padres just need to get in. If you get in, anything is possible. Just got to get in the dance. And I think they will. Keep playing good baseball. Keep doing your thing. We'll see what the Padres got against the Giants later on this afternoon. We'll talk more about that when we come back. Get back to your phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Braden Surprenant Show live and local each and every Sunday morning. Thanks again for making our morning a part of yours. Hopefully you stay cool today. Another day of heat out here in San Diego County. It was cooking last night for sure. I was sweating like most of the day. But we got NFL Sunday today on week 1 of the NFL. Get your fantasy team set. At about 9:15, I'll go through the injury report, see who's active and inactive, help you start your fantasy team. I already had one question in the chat. Boogie, start Tyreek or nah? I would start Tyreek. I agree with Nate Taylor. For those of you just tuning in, Tyreek Hill was detained earlier today for speeding, but the Dolphins said he will play today, which I would fully expect. So Tyreek Hill got pulled over for speeding, got into an altercation, verbal, and then was detained by the police down there in Miami. The guy was like a block away from the stadium. So it might be a little unnecessary to detain him. But nonetheless, he will play according to Miami. So, yes, I would start Tyreek Hill today if you have the opportunity to do so. Jeff Darlington reported 46 minutes ago, I'm told by sources Tyreek Hill was cited for reckless driving as a result of his incident outside of the stadium with police. He was pulled over. He got into a verbal altercation with police. The officer chose to place Hill in handcuffs. He was cited and released after the situation was de-escalated. So there you go on that. I'll have more updates again at 9:15 for injury news and everything else. Manny Machado on Friday hit a home run to tie the Padres record for most home runs hit in Padres history. This is something that Manny Machado wants to be able to break at Petco Park. And it's only a matter of time, obviously. The guy's under contract for a long period of time now. But a couple of things with this record. Well, first of all, it's amazing that Manny, since 2019, has already tied the Padres home run record. It's amazing that Nate Colbert had held the record for so long. I mean, for so long, this record has been held. 163 home runs for a Padre. I mean, that goes to show a lot of different things. One, it goes to show just how much this roster has just overturned and how small market the Padres used to be, and in having players do really good and then just get shipped off. And I've had this conversation a couple of times of just growing up a Padres fan, the only one, and I was born in 95, so I didn't even get, most of Tony Gwynn's career. I got the tail end of it, but it was basically just Tony. I mean, during my lifetime as a Padres fan, it was like a brand new team every single year. That's why before this new ownership took over and signed these big deals, the jerseys you would see at Petco Park were just insane. Is that a Corey Lubke jersey? Is that an Oscar Salazar jersey? Is that just think about all the players that have played with the Padres. I mean, I saw a Brad Hopp jersey the other day. Brad Hopp Padre jersey? You kidding me? But now kids have it so great. I love that kids growing up in San Diego can have a player on the team and have multiple players on the team that are going to be part of the team their entire childhood that they can root for a long period of time. But back to Manny Machado and the home runs. He tied it at 163. Fernando, by the way, is already top 10. Think about how much Fernando Tatis Jr. has played since 2019. With the injuries, with the off-field deals, with the the PED suspension. I mean, think about the lack of games Fernando has played. I mean, he hasn't made it through one full season yet as a San Diego Padre. He's already got 120 home runs. He's one away from tying Ken Caminiti, who's 9th all time. I mean, Fernando can 100% pass Ken Caminiti. In fact, he probably will. I mean, he could pass Ken Caminiti, and Manny could pass Nate Colbert today. Wouldn't that be something? Not that, being ninth all time on the Padres home run list is like some, we're not going to pause the game for that, but it's amazing that record is so small. I mean, home runs. I mean, Tony Gwynn played for a long time, not a home run hitter. He's sixth on the list with 135. That's not a lot, especially in this day and age. So with some of these players currently signed for a long period of time on the San Diego Padres, I mean, who knows what this top 10 list will be like? I'm going to go pull up the top 50 career batting leaders in home runs for the Padres. Manny Machado, active players, tied with Nate Colbert at 163, as I mentioned. Fernando Tatis Jr. is at 120. He's 10th. Jake Cronenworth is already 24th on the list at 68. With one more home run, he'll tie Eric Hosmer for most home runs hit in a Padres uniform. I mean, a lot of these guys just were never on the team very long. Ha-Seong Kim's already tied for 39th with 47 home runs. Ha-Seong Kim is on this list. I mean, give it a couple of years. Xander Bogaerts will be on this list. And Jerickson Profar's 36th on the all-time Padres home run list with 49 home runs. Amazing. Amazing. There could be a list in the future that has Manny, Fernando, Xander, Jake Cronenworth, all in the top 10 in home runs in Padres history. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. Jake's got to hit about 30 more home runs to be in 30 to 40 more home runs. But very interesting to say with the home run record. Padres today against the San Francisco Giants could use its victory against San Francisco. Just try to win series at this point in time, and you'll really hold off everybody behind you. If you continue to win series with 6 series to go, the teams behind you are going to have to start sweeping series in order to pass you. So we'll be able to Padres will be able to continue to play at this level and get into the playoffs. It's an interesting spot that the Padres are in. Obviously, they're just out of reach of the division, and they're in a spot where they're like kind of safe, but not really, because they only have like a 2-game lead now on the New York Mets. But also in a spot where you don't want to like burn out before the end of the season. So it'll be Joe Musgrove today for the Padres, sitting at 5-4. He's been great. Joe Musgrove's been great in his return after all that time off. 5-4, 4.09 ERA on the year, 71 strikeouts. He is going against Bivens today. Spencer Bivens of the San Francisco Giants, who's 3-1 of the 2.86. See how the Padres will line it up. 110 today. So you can get the morning games in for the NFL before you start diving into some Padres baseball. You can do a little bit of scoreboard watching, I guess, if you wanted to. But that's where we stand right now with the Padres, and we'll see what they do today against the Giants. Hopefully they can take care of the Giants today, because after today for the Padres, if I pull up my schedule here, I don't have the fun printed out one like Annie does. They will go to Seattle for 2. They got Monday off, which is great. They'll go to Seattle for 2 games, Thursday off, and then they'll go to San Francisco on the way back home for 6 games at home against the Astros and the White Sox. So there's only one more homestand left, Padres fans. You better get your tickets. And then they'll finish the season at L.A. and at Arizona. We're down to the final 6 series of the Major League Baseball season. We're now at the point where I think a lot of people just want the season to end, but they want the Padres to make sure they're well within the playoffs. I mean, they're in a spot where they can win 90 games. I mean, they got to win 9 more games here to get to that 90 number, which is a lot more than I thought they were going to get. And I also think, based on the way the National League really stepped it up in the second half. That's a lot. I mean, those win totals are going to be high. I mean, we thought like 84, 85 was going to get you in the playoffs. I mean, if the Padres only win 4 their next and they go 4-14, I don't think they're making the playoffs. So, National League really stepped it up. Really stepped it up. But overall, that's what we got with the Padres. When we come back, we're going to talk some college football, talk about yesterday in college football. We had a lot of good games in college football yesterday. A lot of big ranked matchups. A lot of teams separating themselves from the pack, and some schools that, well, that was a devastating loss. Looking at you, Notre Dame. The most Notre Dame loss I have seen in a long time. Go out and you beat Texas A&M at Kyle Field and then lay an egg against Northern Illinois at home. And Northern Illinois, they're good. They're 2-0, but it's still Northern Illinois in South Bend, Indiana. Got to be able to take care of business against the Huskies. But that was a major upset. We'll talk about some of the scares yesterday, some of the teams that really shown that they might be a competitor for a national championship. Talk more about Aztecs football as they lost yesterday to Oregon State. And then we'll get into some NFL previews. If you want to talk Padres, give me a call, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final hour of the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning. You can also catch me on Monday nights here on 97.3 The Fan with America's finest football show. Talking a lot of high school football on that show, but also talking college, little NFL, dabble in some. That will be every Monday night after Monday Night Football, more likely than not starting at 10 p.m. We'll have a show tomorrow. The following week, America's finest football show will be off just because we got Padres baseball as we have the final night game of the year on a Monday for the Padres, at least in the regular season. They play the Astros at 6:40 in 2 weeks, and then after that, we're back to our regularly scheduled Monday programming on America's finest football show. For all of you YouTube fans out there, if 10 o'clock at night is too late for you, don't worry. We re-air it on Thursdays on YouTube, and I'm in the chat talking it up. So if you have any high school football questions or anything like that, be sure to follow our page and like us and subscribe to us. You can subscribe to me, the Braden Surprenant Show, and not yet, but we will have a America's Finest Football Show wherever you get your podcasts. So if you are a Spotify podcast listener, you can find the Braden Surprenant Show on that. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts. Please like and subscribe to the Braden Surprenant Show wherever you find your podcasts, because if you missed any of the show, you can go back and listen to it. You can also rewatch it on YouTube at B_SURP on YouTube or at 97.3 The Fan. Follow us on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the fans. Subscribe to me. I got other content on my YouTube page as well, so be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you're on YouTube right now and you haven't done so already, hit the like button and be sure to add some comments in the chat. I had a phone call for a second. Eric in Oceanside hung up, so Eric, if you're there, give us a call back. We'll talk some Padres baseball, but wanted to dive into some college football as well. Again, Padres lost last night to the San Francisco Giants, jumped out to a 1-0 lead. Giants ended up taking the lead. Padres battled back, but then Giants got 2 runs in the 9th inning against the Padres, and then that was the overall the difference as they went on to beat San Diego last night and take game 2 of the series 6-3. Padres will try to get game 3 today. And if they win the series, again, in a good spot. We talked about where everything stands, but if you look at the hunt for October, Padres currently have a 2-game lead on the New York Mets, who have the final wild card spot in the National League wild card. Padres a 1.5 games over Arizona that has the 2nd wild card spot, as the Padres have the top wild card spot at 81-63. Atlanta is on the outside looking in with 1 game back behind the New York Mets. And then Chicago and St. Louis, I am willing to say, go on a limb here. And I might not be making a bold prediction, but I think it's over for the Cubs and the Cardinals. I think you got 4 teams battling for 3 spots right now in the National League wild card standings. And the current team that's on the outside looking in is the Atlanta Braves. So if you're the San Diego Padres, just keep the Braves and Mets at a distance so you don't have to worry about those two battling it out for the final spot in the National League wild card. In terms of the division standings, Padres 5 games back from Los Angeles. I've said it a couple of times. The easiest way to point out if you're going to how you can catch somebody is by winning series and them losing series. If you're 5 games back of Los Angeles, you are 5 series back from Los Angeles. So if the Padres want to pass the Dodgers in their next 6 series, the Padres have to win 5 and the Dodgers have to lose 5. And then the Padres have to match whatever the Dodgers do in that last series, if that happens to be, the case. But that's how you have to look at it. So with 6 series to go, the Padres have to win 5 of those series, and the Dodgers have to lose 5 of those series if you want to make up the 5 games in the standings. That's how long it plays out. Unless the Dodgers get swept and you sweep a team, and then you can pick up 2 games per series. But the reality is, if you're winning series and the Dodgers are losing series, you're only making up 1 game per series, especially in these 3-game series. So 5 games left to go, or 6 series left to go. That's very difficult. It's a very difficult task unless the Dodgers collapse or you go to L.A. and sweep them in Los Angeles coming up and all of a sudden put the pressure on for the final weekend. But again, in between the series that the Dodgers play the Padres, they got the Rockies before and they got the Rockies after. And unlike the Padres, the Dodgers take care of business against the Colorado Rockies. In fact, most of the teams in the National League do. For some reason, the Rockies have the Padres number. So there's that. In terms of schedules coming up, Atlanta's got 20 games left. The Mets have 20 games left. Padres are down to 18 games left. Arizona's got 19 games left, and St. Louis has 20. The Cubs have 19. Of those games, Atlanta will play an even 10 games against teams currently above 500. They'll play 10 games against teams currently below 500. The New York Mets are going to play 12 games against teams above 500. They have 7 games left against teams below 500. So they actually have 19 games left on the season. Padres will play 11 games against teams above 500. They'll play an additional 7 games now against teams below 500. Arizona has 10 games against teams above 500, 9 games below. Cardinals only play 5 more games against teams above 500. They play 15 against teams below 500. And then the Chicago Cubs, they got to play the Dodgers and the Phillies with 1 more game against the Yankees. So 7 games against teams above 500. They still got 12 games against teams below 500. So I still think the Cardinals and the Cubs are basically out of it, but their schedules barely keep them alive if they can take care of business against some bad teams. Want to get your phone calls, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's go down to the South Bay, or our resident Browns fan, Clay, is standing by. Clay, what's going on? How's your Sunday? Excited for week 1?
Oh, I'm really excited for week 1, Braden. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't be, right?
Absolutely. Browns and Cowboys, Clay. Get excited.
Yeah, and you know how much of a Cowboys fan I'm not, so I am excited.
Hey, anytime.
I haven't been a Cowboys fan ever, and I really got turned off against them in like 1975, 76, 77 when I was young in the Navy, and they were called America's team. I just hated that.
Well, you know what? It's not very often that teams have an advantage, or should I say a spread in their favor against the Dallas Cowboys, but 2.5-point favorites for the Brownies today.
Hey, 2.5 points, we'll take it. Now all we got to do is produce on the field, and all will be good in the hood.
All right. Clay, what do you got for me today?
Hey, you know, I mean, obviously, every time we lose, you know, I mean, it's tough to, or you watch certain things during the game that just tick you off. But, I mean, my whole thing lately is on Compassana. Now, you know I'm a big Padres fan. I don't like to nickel dime these guys. I like them to go out and play the game. But I just sometimes I feel like Compassana behind the plate is a liability, and maybe it's just pitcher specific. I really think Higashioka brings a little bit more to the table defensively, and of course with his ability to throw out runners. I just don't like giving up extra bases to people just because they're on the base path.
Well, I think a big reason why Elias Diaz got picked up was for that specific example right there, Clay. And I think, you know, the roster is currently expanded right now for the month of September by a couple of spots, and that's why, you know, Camposano, and that's why they're carrying 3 catchers. But I would not be surprised, Clay, come playoff time, your playoff roster has Diaz and Higashioka, and it doesn't have Camposano. I would not be surprised. I think that's a big reason why they brought in Diaz as a hired gun, a cheap hired gun, may I add. He is a free agent at the end of the year. I mean, obviously, Camposano's got a lot of years of control, and you want to work on some things again in the minor league. I think you can, and by having Elias Diaz jump in, and although his defense has come down a little bit, and his offense has come down a little bit from his all-star year a year ago for Colorado, that's still a nice starter to have, or even a backup with Higashioka in the postseason instead of having Higashioka take all the reps behind the disc, just like they had a couple of years ago when they're in the NLCS and they never had Jorge Alfaro catch a ball game. I mean, he did not catch a single ball game in the postseason, and neither did Campusano. So I think if you could give your catcher some reps and some rest, then you got guys like Diaz and Higashioka. I would not be surprised based on what you described perfectly in the Campusano situation is a reason why he's left off a playoff roster.
I totally agree, and I just hope it goes down something like that. Because again, I hate giving away the bases and letting people get in advance, and then just a nickel, dime, whatever. And next thing you know, people are scoring, and not to mention the pass balls too. Tired of watching things clank off his glove, go here, go there. I think Higashioka's more controlled behind the plate.
I agree, Clay. I appreciate the phone call. Enjoy your NFL Sunday and your Padres baseball today. It's a lot of sports to consume.
It is, and I just want to mention, it also was heartfelt watching Michigan get stomped yesterday. Ohio State didn't really play anybody, just a tomato can. But other than that, I was happy to see Michigan lose.
Well, you know what, Clay? Ohio State, Julian Sand got some playing time. The Carlsbad kid threw a touchdown pass yesterday. It's good to see.
Most certainly. Yep. Yeah, all I can say is go Ohio State, go Browns, and, of course, love my Padres.
All right, Clay. I appreciate the phone call. Talk to you next time.
Thanks a lot, Braden. Bye.
I mean, I don't like Ohio State at all, but I respect Clay. Guy's from Ohio. Guy loves his teams. Love it. Got to love his passion. That's why I love taking Clay's phone call. Time for everybody in the YouTube chat to squirm every time I mention Kevin in Chula Vista, but I love talking to Kevin on a Sunday morning. Kevin, what's going on?
Well, nice to follow our old friend Clay down here as well. He's my neighbor down the street here someplace. So good call on the catching situation. I was going to digress back over to the Aztecs. We've seen them now for 2 weeks, Braden, and I'm one of those masochists that watches the game to the bitter end. And I want to get your take and see if you agree. It seems to me right now, this especially the offensive side, is a bit overwhelmed with what they're trying to do. Wouldn't it behoove this staff to maybe, instead of being Aztec fast, be Aztec slow a little bit, slow things down, give these kids a chance to get into the huddle, get themselves composed, get ready for a play, instead of trying to run up and down the field. They were saying on the TV last night, Coach Lewis wanted to run 80 plays, and he only got off 47. So, well, that's wonderful if you've got an experienced veteran team, but at this point they're not. This is just who they are and what they are, and it'd be more refreshing, I think, to let these kids grow into the program. Tell everybody the truth. You're in a rebuild here. God knows how long it's going to take. It may be 1 year, it may be 3 years, it may be 5. I don't know, but certainly this team, as it stands right now, given the mistakes that they're making, and they're just the discombobulation that we're seeing, especially on the offensive side of football, I wonder if it wouldn't be better just to dial it back a little bit and let these kids grow.
Well, I don't think they necessarily need to slow it down. I do think they need to kind of understand, at least from my perspective, and again, I'm not there, and I respect coaches, being a football coach myself, and I really like this coaching staff, and I think they're going to do a good job in the future. I don't think they have the weapons to do what they want to do currently, and I think it's going to be a work in progress, as you mentioned. I mean, from a receiving standpoint, there's nobody open. And on the first game, I mean, they were trying to go deep almost every single play when they don't have a deep threat. And I would not be surprised, and that we're about to see how this team reacts. But when you have teams that run high-tempo offenses, and again, I made this comparison in my first segment with TCU football. When I was at TCU in 2014 and 2015 with a mobile quarterback in Trevon Boykin that was a Heisman candidate, and they had receivers that ended up going to the National Football League, and they had a great offensive line. They had really good teams. When they run up-tempo offense, it was great. It was almost unstoppable, just like those Chip Kelly Oregon teams. But when you don't have the right personnel and you run the same high-tempo offense, as you mentioned, all of a sudden you're 3 and out in like 35 seconds and the other team's getting the ball back and your defense is out there the entire time. and you live by the speed, you die by the speed. So you either jump up on somebody and score a lot of points, or you're giving up points left and right. It's a big reason why the Big 12's got these high scores all the time. I tell people all the time, I was like, hey, they don't play any defense in the Big 12. Well, they do play defense in the Big 12, but you try to stop somebody 100 times because you keep turning the ball over left and right. So from that perspective on just kind of going fast, yes, I agree. Maybe they should try to slow it down, but I think a little bit more of quick game would be better. I mean, let's get some screens out to the flats. Let's go bubble screens. Let's run some hitches. Let's get the ball out to guys very quickly and get 3 or 4 yards of pop, and then use that as kind of our running game. That's a big thing for guys like Mike Leach when he was running teams and running the air raid. I mean, he'd throw the ball 80 to 90% of the time. And in football, you got to be able to run the ball in order to be successful, and he didn't run the ball. But when you go quick game and you're running screens into the boundary and you're getting on the ball and going quick and you get a quick, easy pass and 4 yards of pop, that's the same thing as handing the ball up. It's the same thing as running the ball. And it gives you a little bit more balance in your offense, where after week 1, when you got your boy running the ball in Marquez Cooper up and down the field and is really your only sign of offense, you don't get Oregon State loading the box on you if you got to they got to worry about the screen on the outside. Spread them out to run the rock and maybe slow things down a bit. Find some, high percentage plays instead of just trying to hit the bombs down the field. And they had some good play. I mean, there's some good plays last night, but they ran a good screen pass to Marquez Cooper. They had a couple other good plays, but it's hard with going with the freshman quarterback. But at the same time, you want to install all this stuff. You don't want to be not what your identity is. So it's a little bit of give and take, Kevin, if that makes sense.
I get it, Braden. And they were doing a lot of the quick plays so that they're going sideline to sideline. That's not the problem. The problem is, as you said, they can't really get the ball down the field when they need to pick up big chunks of yardage. So, until that gets fixed, and a lot of this is penalties. I mean, the penalties were just killing them again. I will say I'm impressed with the defense. The defense held in there last night as long as they possibly could. The play that killed them was the O'Neal play at the goal line.
Oh, the fumble. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, that and this is a little guy. He's not that big. It was criticized by the commentators as the wrong play call. I have to agree with them 110%. You got the stud in Cooper. You've got other players you can go to. Why do you have the smallest guy in the field trying to run up the gut and against an Oregon State team that's 20 pounds heavier than you? That's the little things I'm talking about here.
Well, so, the penalties are for sure, and I was going to bring that up, Kevin. Half of their problem is they're behind the sticks more times than not because they commit a penalty or they get an incomplete pass on a bad throw or a miscommunication, or they try to go deep on first down, and now they're behind the sticks, and instead of getting 3rd and 4, they're getting 3rd and 8, and that's way more difficult to pick up. And I watched USD the last 2 weeks deal with the same problem of stalling offenses because they keep putting themselves in situations that are hard to get out of play-wise, especially with the personnel that they have. And the same thing is true with San Diego State, and I agree. I mean, Danny O'Neal running the ball in Indiana is probably a lot easier than Danny O'Neal trying to run the rock against a way bigger Oregon State team than San Diego State down by the goal line when you got Marquez Cooper and Jalen Armstead. Oh, and by the way, you do have the local product, Lucky Sutton, sitting there rotting on the bench you could give the ball to as well, that are bigger running backs that can pound the ball inside the red zone. So I agree with you, Kevin. A lot of mistakes. I think a lot of those mistakes could be fixed, but at the same time, I mean, you're right. I mean, they're trying to run something that they might not currently have the personnel to do.
Okay, last but not least, everybody in the chat, raise your hands if today you're going to become a Raiders fan. I know I am. Anytime anybody plays the Chargers, especially, I want to see the Raiders go up there, and it's going to be a Raider home game, I think, and go Raiders today. So raise your hands in the chat. I know you all get all huffy puffy up there. Get your keyboards going and raise your hands.
My favorite, Kevin, are the people that are like Raider loving is Dodger loving. Meanwhile, they got both up in their like Twitter bio. Hilarious to me.
Yep.
Hilarious. Kevin, I appreciate the phone call. Love talking football. So anytime you want to call in and talk football, let me know.
You got it. Hang in, Braden. Stay cool, brother.
All right, we'll talk to you, Kevin. Kevin in Chula Vista. We'll dive into some football. I love talking football. We never get to do it anymore. I mean, it's great. It's the most popular game in the United States. We never get to talk about it. I know there's football fans out there in San Diego. I know you guys watch, but it's fun. I love talk. I'll talk Aztecs all day. Where are the Aztec fans at? We'll talk San Diego State football. I'm in. Yeah, I love the Raider thing too. That's hilarious to me. Raider loving is Dodger loving. All right, bolt up guy. Okay, bolt man. Thanks. I don't even care about that game. I mean, I don't even watch it. With having Red Zone, and I don't even know if I've paid for Red Zone yet, but I'm gonna go find it. If we usually do a deal with me, my brother, and my dad, and we haven't done that yet. I'm gonna go find it, and so I can watch it for fantasy purposes. But I mean, I watch every game now. I just watch it's just all the action all the time. I mean, I can't tell you the last time, aside from playoff games, I can't tell you the last time I sat and watched just one NFL game from start to finish. And I could really give a you-know-what about what happens in the Chargers-Raiders game. I mean, it's just like any other game. I mean, the Chargers are better than the Raiders. The Chargers should beat the Raiders. I mean, they're favored by 3, but they should flat out beat the Raiders today. Their team is better. And here's my thing for all of the Charger lovers and all the Charger haters. This is the year that the Chargers, I think, will have the most success with Harbaugh, because the first year in the honeymoon phase is always great with Harbaugh, and then it slowly deteriorates from there on out because professionals, especially professionals, college kids got tired of it too. They get tired of the shtick very quickly. At the beginning, it's like, oh, wow, this is fun. Yeah, this is great. Old school, fire up, manly stuff. And then it's like, year 3, you're like, Brady, you're still doing this? We're still doing this? Happened in San Francisco, happened at Stanford, happened in Michigan. It's happened everywhere he's gone. And I would imagine it's going to be the same thing in LA. But I know Chargers, I think they'll probably make the playoffs. So take that for what it's worth, Charger fans. And I'm not even a Charger fan anymore. We're going to talk more about the NFL when we come back. Active and inactives. Get your fantasy lineups started. I'll let you know who's playing and who's not for the 10 a.m. games, and we'll get you a full preview of NFL Sunday Week 1 coming up on the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Braden Surprenant Show live and local each every Sunday morning. Week 1 of the NFL is today. Got to get your fantasy lineups set. Let's talk about who's active and who's inactive. Again, it's the first time tuning into the show. I'm Braden Surprenant, live and local here in San Diego each and every Sunday morning. Talking Padres baseball and now with college football and the National Football League. Got a lot to talk about. Got a lot to fit in 2 hours. And everything I don't fit in these 2 hours, we're going to be talking about, especially football-wise, on America's finest football show tomorrow night. 10 p.m. on a Monday, every Monday, America's finest football show, a new show here on 97.3 The Fan, trying to get you guys live and local as long as possible each and every day. For all of you that watch on YouTube, it re-airs on Thursday nights to get you the full preview of some high school football coming up over the weekend. We talk college football, might even dabble in a little NFL as well, but it's mostly going to be for the high school kids each and every Monday night. If you did not catch last week's episode, you could go find it on YouTube. We have a new YouTube playlist on The Fan, America's Finest Football Show. You can watch it on YouTube. You can also find it in podcast form at the Braden Surprenant Show, wherever you get your podcasts until we get the new podcast platform up for America's Finest Football Show. So all you guys out there that are enjoying the football content, we'll have more on Monday nights after Monday Night Football and also on Thursday nights during Thursday Night Football to get you some high school football, college football, and a little bit of the National Football League. Speaking of the NFL, we got to get to our active and inactive list here for the NFL as we get you ready for some NFL football on week 1. Got to get your starting lineups ready to go. I've already had to adjust my starting lineup in one of my leagues because of T. Higgins. T. Higgins for the Cincinnati Bengals had a hamstring injury on Thursday. He is out, inactive. T. Higgins is inactive for the Cincinnati Bengals. If you need a pickup, Andre Ilcevas gets a huge boost in value with Trenton Irvin and Charlie Jones also in the mix for added looks. So Andre Ilcevas of the Cincinnati Bengals, if you need a replacement for T. Higgins and it doesn't cost you money in the league, I'd recommend picking up Andre Iosivas, Ilcevas, for the Cincinnati Bengals because T. Higgins is inactive. Jamar Chase was thinking about not playing today for the Bengals. He is, in fact, active. He had been practicing prior to reports of his illness, although still mirrored in the contract extension talks. He will play today. Jamar Chase is active for the Cincinnati Bengals. Ian Thomas, tight end for Carolina with a calf injury. He is out on the injured reserve. Impact Tommy Tremble, who has a hamstring himself, is also out, leaving with little reason to look for Carolina for any tight end needs. If you have one of the Carolina's tight ends, do not start them. Keenan Allen for the Chicago Bears had a heel injury this week. He is active. The veteran will play, but also don't be surprised if rookie Rome Odunze gets a lot of looks as well. Keenan Allen active for the Chicago Bears. In Indiana, Josh Downs is out. Josh Downs with his ankle injury is out. Adonai Mitchell moves up in the depth chart to receiver number 2 status. If you need somebody for Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell is going to get a lot more looks for Indianapolis. Josh Downs for Indianapolis is out for the Indianapolis Colts. Everybody that's got Matt Gay, the kicker for Indianapolis, he has a hernia. He is also inactive. Spencer Schrader was elevated from the practice squad and will get the call. So Indianapolis will be with Spencer Schrader at kicker instead of Matt Gay. Matt Gay is inactive today for Indianapolis. Tyreek Hill, the wide receiver for Miami, who is detained by police outside the stadium for a driving violation, is ready to play. Tyreek Hill is active for Miami against Jacksonville. As for Malik Washington, the receiver for the Dolphins, he's got a quad injury. He is out. Braxton Berrios likely moves comfortably into the team's number 3 wide receiver role. Tyreek Hill active for Miami. Malik Washington out for Miami. On to New England, Antonio Gibson, the running back, is active. Ramondre Stevenson is still expected to get the majority of running back touches, but Gibson will be in the mix for some touches as well. The deep league, if you have Antonio Gibson, he is active from his hip injury. In New Orleans, a hand injury for running back A.T. Perry. He is inactive, missed a pair of practices late in the week, so not really a shock. Rashid Shaheed, Mount Carmel product, and Cedric Wilson Jr. get small bumps in value this week for New Orleans as A.T. Perry is inactive for the Saints. Russell Wilson, quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is inactive today with the calf injury. Wilson traveled to Atlanta, warmed up before the game, so there remains optimism that he's healthy enough to play. However, Justin Fields will get the start, and Wilson will be the emergency number 3 quarterback. Russell Wilson inactive for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It will be the Justin Fields show for Pittsburgh to start 2024. Roman Wilson, a receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he is also out with an ankle injury. Rookie will not debut in week 1. Ben Skoronk may see a few targets now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Roman Wilson out with an ankle injury for Pittsburgh. Last one to report, DeAndre Hopkins, D-Hop, who had a knee injury, was expected to miss some weeks during the end of preseason and be ready to go by week 1. He has been ruled active today for the Tennessee Titans. DeAndre Hopkins is active, ready to play. Was limited in practice all week, but is apparently ready to go for Tennessee against Chicago. Suffered a torn MCL in late July, so there may be some easing him into action, but DeAndre Hopkins is in fact active. And that's a look at who's active and inactive in the week 1 10 a.m. games. At 1 o'clock, a couple of news to report. CeeDee Lamb is active. Dallas made the expected procedural move this week to allow its top wideout to start in week 1. He has been activated from the NFI list. DJ Shark of the Los Angeles Chargers with a hip injury is out on the IR. Expect rookie receiver Ladd McConkey to get a chance to shine right out of the gate this week for the Chargers. In Seattle, Farrell Brown, the tight end, is out with a foot injury. Noah Fant, who has a toe injury, was injured early in the week but should be fine to start. Latest update on Tyler Lockett in Seattle. He is questionable to play today after a full Friday practice. He does look good to start, though, on Sunday for Seattle. Trey Palmer, wide receiver, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Concussion earlier in the week. If he clears the league's concussion protocol, he's still likely to be behind Jalen McMillan on the depth chart, but he is questionable to play for Tampa Bay. Marcus Mariota, quarterback for Washington, who is the backup for Jaden Daniels, out on the injured reserve. Marcus Mariota is. Jeff Driscoll will be the backup quarterback for Jaden Daniels. That's a look at the afternoon games. That's a look at who's active and who's inactive as we get you ready for week 1 in the NFL. When we come back, full preview of the National Football League week 1 to finish the show as we get you ready for some pro football and some pro football talk coming up next. Before we get to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show at 12:10 with Sam Levitt, Padres baseball at 1:10. Happy week 1 of the National Football League right here on the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local in San Diego on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final segment of the Braden Surprenant Show as we are live and local each and every Sunday morning. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. If you haven't heard the show before, I'm Braden Surprenant. You can follow me on social media at B_SURP. Talking NFL today, week 1 of the National Football League. Padres will play the Giants this afternoon at 1 o'clock as they try to win take the 3-game series over San Francisco after a loss last night. Joe Musgrove on the hill for the San Diego Padres as he goes against, I think, what's his name? Spencer Bivens? Yeah, Spencer Bivens of the San Francisco Giants. He's 3-1 with a 2.86 ERA. Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show starts at 12:10. First pitch, 1:10 right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. But we got NFL football coming up. Well, not on the show, but coming up a little bit later at 10 in the morning. Just went through all the actives and inactives list for you to get your fantasy team started. It's a hot day today in San Diego. Hopefully you guys are staying cool, watching some sports. But we're going to get you a nice little preview of the NFL today as we get you ready for week 1. Game 1 on Thursday between Baltimore and Kansas City was a great way to start the weekend, and now we get you loaded for a nice morning slate here on the West Coast, starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons. That game will start at 10 o'clock in the morning. Atlanta's favored by 3.5 in this game. So much attention, though, is on the Steelers quarterbacks. Their offseason defensive additions flew under the radar. That ends Sunday when inside linebacker Patrick Queen will be a key part of the plan to slow down Bijan Robinson. Steelers can count on Robinson, who, despite inconsistent usage in his rookie season, had 976 yards and 4 touchdowns to be a significant factor for the Falcons' attack. Should be an interesting matchup between Patrick Queen, linebacker for the Steelers, and Bijan Robinson, running back for the Atlanta Falcons. Remember, Russell Wilson is inactive today for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It will be Justin Fields starting for Pittsburgh. I know Justin Fields probably wants to show the NFL that he is still a first-round draft pick and that the Bears quit on him. But we'll see what Justin Fields has got with the Pittsburgh Steelers down in Atlanta. Again, Atlanta's favored by 3.5. I like Atlanta in this game. I think they cover the 3.5 points. Falcons, though, betting nugget for you. We're 5-12 against the spread last season, tied with the Chargers for the worst record in the NFL. Take that for what it's worth. I think we flip a new script. I got the Falcons minus 3.5. The bold prediction, according to ESPN, Steelers cornerback Joey Porter Jr. will record an interception. Buy or sell. I'm going to sell that, even though Porter ranked 4th among all outside corners in yards allowed per coverage snap last year per NFL Next Gen Stats. Incredibly impressive as a rookie. Now a week 1 starter. This is a year he becomes a star, beginning with a pick off Kirk Cousins, says ESPN's Seth Walder, who has all the bold predictions. I'm selling that bold prediction. I am taking the Falcons minus 3.5. Arizona Cardinals at the Buffalo Bills. This is one of my survivor pool picks. I think Buffalo gets the job done against Arizona as the Arizona Cardinals trying to bounce back from a tough year last year. The difference is they got Kyler Murray back, but how will he be used? Most likely Marvin Harrison Jr. be used by offensive coordinator Drew Petzing and Kyler Murray at starting quarterback. We see the debut of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray working together in Arizona. That's a storyline to watch for the Cardinals. As for the Bills, you got the wide receiver room undergoing major changes in the offseason, and Joe Brady is taking over as the offensive coordinator full time. I think a lot of people are out on Josh Allen after last season. I think a lot of people think he's going to have a bad year. I'm watching Josh Allen today against the Arizona Cardinals and see if he really is going to fall off. I don't necessarily think he's going to. A stat to know for this game: the Bills lost 45% of their receiving yards and 52% of their receiving touchdowns from last season, as Stephon Diggs, who now plays for the Houston Texans, and Gabe Davis, now playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bold prediction from Seth Walder of ESPN. Bills wide receiver Khalil Shakir will record 7 or more receptions. Rookie Keon Coleman might one day turn into this team's number 1 receiver, but Shakir is likely the most reliable wideout right now, especially after posting a strong 2.1 yards per route run last season. I'd buy that. I think Shakir's going to have a good day against the Arizona Cardinals. Bills favored by 6.5. I think they cover. I like the Bills at home. Bills Mafia gets off to a good start. We got tables crashing everywhere. Buffalo's having a party. They're going to the Super Bowl after week 1 in their minds. Betting nugget for you. Murray is 12-7-1 against the spread in his career when getting at least 4 points, including 10-4-1 against the spread on the road. So he's getting 6.5. Take that for what it's worth. I still like the Bills minus 6.5 at home. Patriots at the Bengals is the other survivor pool pick that I like. Cincinnati's favored by 8.5 at home. I don't think Cincinnati covers, but I do think they win. Time to look at the offensive line for the New England Patriots. Likely going to be without their starters, Viridian Lowe, who has an oblique injury at left tackle, and City So, ankle injury at left guard. So the left side of the line for the Patriots might be a disaster. This makes a formidable challenge against the Bengals' high-end defensive line that much tougher. So a big D-line and a great D-line for Cincinnati going against a banged-up offensive line for the Patriots who are missing their left tackle and their left guard today. Storylines to watch for the Bengals, the bounce back of Joe Burrow in his first game back from a wrist injury. Andre Iosivas is making his debut as the team's slot receiver. T. Higgins, as I said earlier, is out of today's game. He suffered a hamstring injury late in the week. He will not play. He is inactive. Jamar Chase is active for the Bengals today. He was on the fence about playing because he's still up in the air with his contract negotiations, but Jamar Chase inactive. T. Higgins is out, inactive for the Bengals. Bengals, again, favored by 6.5. Bold prediction, Bengals will score a defensive or special teams touchdown. I don't know about a special teams touchdown, but the way the defense is lined up against this New England Patriots offense that's already missing 2 of their offensive linemen, not necessarily a high-powered offense for the New England Patriots. They're in a rebuild. I could buy that. I'll buy the bold prediction. I'll take the Bengals to win the game, but I got the Patriots plus 8.5 in Cincinnati. Titans and Bears in Chicago. The Monsters of the Midway are favored by 3.5 against Tennessee. We get to see the debut of Caleb Williams and company. We'll see what Caleb Williams and company has in store. I like the weapons they have on offense. They've surrounded Caleb Williams with a lot of weapons in the receiving core, and I think it's a good start for the season for the Bears going against a Titans team that is in a little bit of a tweener spot right now in the National Football League. Best storyline to watch for the Titans? Well, there's a lot of film on Titans DC, Denard Wilson, since this is his first time fully running his own show. But he cited aggressive coordinators Greg Williams and Todd Bowles as major influences on his philosophy. So maybe he'll put some pressure on Caleb Williams as the Bears don't know necessarily 100% what to prepare for. I'm sure they had enough that they needed to see. Bold prediction, Titans linebacker Arden Key will record at least 1 sack, according to Seth Walder. I will buy that. I think the Titans will dial up some type of defense against a rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams. Even with him being a Heisman Trophy winner and a number 1 overall pick, he still is a rookie. NFL usually likes to throw a lot at rookie quarterbacks. Betting nugget, quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall are 0-14-1 outright and 1-14 against the spread in their first career start since 2003. I got the Bears winning this game. I think it's close. I don't think they cover the 3.5, so give me the Titans plus 3.5. Texans at Colts. Houston's favored by 3. C.J. Stroud threw for 648 yards and 4 touchdown passes in 2 games against the Colts during his rookie season. That was without newly added all-pro receiver Stephon Diggs. Now, Stroud's got a ton of playmakers that include Diggs at receiver, Nico Collins and Tank Dell, alongside tight end Dalton Schultz. And, by the way, he's got a passing reception threat in Joe Mixon as a running back. This could be a high-powered offense for the Houston Texans. Can't wait to see them in action today against the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson coming back from an injury from last year. Bold prediction, according to Seth Walder of ESPN. Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson will post a QBR under 30 for the game. While he flash skill last season, Richardson still wasn't that efficient, posting just a 45 quarterback rating in his limited action. But this is more about the Texans' defense, which Seth Walder thinks could be a very difficult for Richardson to beat. I agree with that. I'm going to buy Anthony Richardson will post a QBR under 30 for the game. I will take the Texans -3. Jaguars at the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill detained before today's game, but released after a driving violation. Ended up being a speeding ticket. Things escalated a little bit. Tyreek Hill got put in handcuffs. Tyreek Hill got released on site. He is playing today. I like the Dolphins in this game -3.5 against Jacksonville at home. Storyline to watch for the Jags. The new guys on offense, Gabe Davis, who is a deep threat, always been a deep threat for the Buffalo Bills, and rookie Brian Thomas Jr., also a deep threat. Jacksonville could be throwing the air raid a little bit with Trevor Lawrence. Added, main goal in mind, stretch the field and more. They got the weapons to do that. We'll see if the Jaguars can do that. Bold prediction, Dolphins running back Devon Achane will break off a 40-plus yard play from scrimmage today. I can buy that. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to take the Dolphins -3.5 at home. Panthers at Saints. Saints are favored by 4 against the Panthers. I'm going to take the Saints at home in the Superdome. Stat to know in this game, the Panthers were the only winless team on the road last season, 0-9. Their last road win was a 10-7 victory against the Saints on January 8, 2023. But I'll take the Saints in their home opener at the Superdome. Vikings at Giants will be the final game we talk about in the morning. Vikings are favored by 1.5 on the road. Let's see what Malik Neighbors can do to help out Danny Dimes and the New York Giants, and what the Vikings are going to do without J.J. McCarthy. We got the Sam Darnold show for Minnesota. This might be a close one in Gotham. That'll do it for me. Braden Surprenant on the Braden Surprenant Show. I'll be back tomorrow on Andy Nelson, plus America's Finest Football Show tomorrow night. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.